Are using slick tire, but we're expecting the rain to be coming fairly soon, and I think depending on the choice, the right choice or the wrong choice, we will see a lot of gaps between quick cars and slow cars, so I think it's going to last for at least part of the day, and normally it should be better at night.
Well, you're looking at the battle in the head of LMP2. There are the standings. Adrian Fernandez in the Zytek ahead of Warren Hughes, right ahead of Warren Hughes. That's literally less than the car length between them. There's the third place car, Michael Verger's Zytek. Stuart Mosley in the Radical is fourth, and Tommy Erdős is fifth. And David Leslie, there was a problem with the RML car. Tommy was not in the car, not strapped in as the rest of the field was rolling away. Was he just having a comfort break before the start, or...?
I was in their hospitality at the time, and they came running up. There was about 3 or 4 different guys from the team, including the team manager Phil Backer, saying, where is he, we need him now, we need him in the car. And Tommy just hadn't realised the time. He was just sitting in the back of the hospitality having a chat with somebody, and all of a sudden he had to take off and run down to the car to get in. And I could hear the car starting. I'm thinking, well, he should have been there, because I knew he was starting.
That's a nightmare I've never had. We've all dreamt that we've been somewhere else when the programme started without us, but when the race started without us, Mark?
An historic moment here. We've got the Gulf Barazzi Epsilon chasing that Zytek of Adrian Fernandez. 40 years since the first Gulf car. First advertising was allowed here in Le Mans. Gulf won that race to Gulf Porsche and bring it right up to date. Does he go? It makes the move. Can he make the move on? No, Adrian blocks him.
And he spun it.
Ran out
and that's two Formula Ford teammates having a Formula Ford race there.
They haven't met each other since Formula Ford days. Well, while Michael sorts himself out, of course, Lowe's is the newest ever sponsor here at Le Mans. It's Adrian's sponsor in American racing, in what was Grand Am last year he's racing in, now this year of course in ALMS, and here we go again. Verger's just runs out of talent. He's got his cap on back to front again, obviously, and so Adrian Fernandez bringing Lowe's here, one of America's major home improvement places.
Oh, and that's the Krone Risi Ferrari. Tracy Krone with a Peugeot battle coming up right behind him. Distracted with his eyes in the mirror, David, and didn't get his foot off the brake quickly enough.
That's very easy. He just decided he was going in too quick, pressed harder on the pedal, locked the front up, and then it was never going to turn. These cars, you know, that Porsche does not, that Ferrari does not run ABS brakes, so he needs to pump the pedal to get it stopped. He could have got it stopped, he was thinking about it. He panicked, straight in, across the gravel he went.
He had the lead battle behind him, and that's plenty of pressure. On board with race leader Dindo Capello. No, it's not our Capello, that's Ronaldo. He's universally known as Dindo, has been since he was a little child. And again, the middle sector of the track, from the Mulsanne down towards Indianapolis. Again, he has set the fastest sector time that we've seen. Last lap in traffic, 3:35 compared to his lap of 3:31, 2 laps beforehand. But he is absolutely flying. Race leading Audi, second place Audi of Frank Biela, third Sebastian Bourdais for Peugeot, chased by Lucas Luhr, Mick Minasian and Emmanuel Collard in the Pescarolo, just ahead of the Racing for Holland Dome Judd. That's the battle for 6th position.
Question for David here on the forum. Bandit R asks, do all cars on the same manufacturer tyre have the same compound, or are they customised for each car?
Not all the manufacturers run the same tyres, no. For instance, in the Pescarolas, you've got the two Works Pescarolas, they're on Michelin's. You've got the Roll Centre Pescarola, which is on Dunlop tyres. So even if you've got in any particular car, you can choose a different tyre if you want to run on it. If you have, like Pescarolo have their car and they want Michelin tyres, they have to have the tyres that Michelin say, there you are, that's what you need to use. Now that I had the conversation this morning to find out why they were still trying to sort their car out, why they were doing development work, why they were trying to get the handling sorted out, and it turns out this is the first race they've had this year where it's been wet. The other 2 races have been dry, and they've not had to use the wet tyre. And the wet tyre was actually developed for the diesel cars, and it's got a different construction than what they had last year. And all of a sudden, that Pescarolo does not work as well on the new construction tyres as it did on the old ones that they had here last year.
I think also what he's getting at, would, for instance, Peugeot and Audi have the same compound of tyre?
They have the same compound, yes.
Yeah. They will have the same selection of choices. they will find, presumably, that one different tyre works better for their car in a certain situation, maybe than it does for a rival, but they will all have access to the same tyres from the same truck, as long as they're for the same size wheels, which of course they are.
We did hear from Ollie Gavin this morning in warm-up saying that Corvette had a choice of 6 different types of wet tyres, so that was, that's really confusing. Which one are you going to use? I think that's far too many. But in the pits,
very early pit stop from Christophe Tanso. Tracy Krohn's come in from the gravel traps. We didn't see any problems for the Pescarolo Judd. Number 17 was Henri's best placed car on the grid. It's now down in 13th place and dropping, as you do when you stop moving. And obviously, as you can see, it's getting a fresh set of tyres, and it's had fuel, but really, to be coming in after 20 minutes, you assume that it had, I don't know, half a tank of fuel in, or for some reason.
But there's no urgency here in that stop, David. They just looked at the car, changed tyres quietly and just sent it out.
Well, I wonder if he was, maybe the team had alerted him to something that tyre sensors were picking up, that maybe he had a slow deflation, and when that happens, the tyre starts to get a really big hot pattern that the thermo sensors pick up. So it may have been an advisory stop from the engineers to him rather than the other way round.
You did hear Hugh Chamberlain, when we interviewed him, saying that the engineers noticed there was a puncture and told Bob Berridge before he knew. So the engineers, with the real-time data and all the information that they've actually got, they were able to sort of say to the driver, look, there's a tyre problem coming, before it actually arrives. Maybe Pescarolo did exactly the same thing. They seen it arrive and they said, get in here quick, we want to sort it out. And that's exactly what car 17 did.
On board in the GT class with the Flying Lizard, the number 80 Porsche, and on board with, who started that one? Jörg Bergmeister, I'm thinking. Looks like his helmet inside. And the class being led by Pat Long at the moment. The 76 Porsche, the IMSA car right in front of him, the IMSA team. And of course, Pat Long, factory Porsche driver, sharing with Richard Lietz, another factory Porsche driver, and Raymond Narak, the businessman who runs the IMSA group of service stations or service centres. And there's the Pescarolo of Christophe Tanso. Doesn't seem to be any the worse for its pit stop, but David, as with Chamberlain, you don't want to be coming into the pits any more times than you need to. However, I don't think we're going to see any great records set for lack of time in the pits, as we have done 2 or 3 years previously, because we're expecting it to be a bit of a come as you are in terms of changing tyres.
That's right. When it starts raining, people are going to be popping in, popping out. But if you can stay on your tyres for as long as possible rather than coming in to change them, it will pay off in the long term. Now, that's where the real experience of some of these drivers are going to pay off, because they can leave them out on slick tyres on a damp circuit. Then that, on the long run, will be an awful lot better.
Well, Andrew Cocotti was talking to us in the build-up to the race, saying, actually, when it was as wet as it was on Wednesday and Thursday, if you can survive to come back to the pits, then you're straight in. It was utterly undrivable on slicks and pretty much unmanageable on intermediates when it was raining hard. So he said, the worst thing that can happen is you come past the start-finish line into a wall of water, because then you've got 8.5 miles of first gear, tippy-toey, praying you don't crash and nobody hits you before you can get into change. He said, almost inevitably, if it rains, there is going to be a scramble straight for the pits. It's such a long lap. It's so tough with all this public highway to survive. Well, we're hearing that the Pescarolo changed 2 rear tyres, and they weren't, apparently they weren't happy. They got the wrong compound on, and the car was not pulling the speed it should have been. So again, David, as you say, with all the wet weather running, all sorts of build-up to races have been completely disturbed, and they've ended up starting on a dry race with the wrong tyre on.
Yes, because you've got more than one dry tyre to choose from. Generally, you'll have a soft, medium and a hard. And, if you start off with the wrong one, you can have all sorts of problems, both in handling and, as you heard, in straight line speed. So there we're watching the IMSA Porsche, car 76.
Well, that's our race leader, Pat Long, in the GT class.
Yeah, I was interested, Martin, when you asked Raymond Narak in scrutining on Monday, was it a coincidence that his performance company was called him, so he said, no.
No, borrowed the name before it was re-registered by the American Le Mans Series and the Panos operation.
But they are, as you quite rightly said, one of Porsche's 2 recognised teams here. And David, there's been a lot of rumours this weekend that with only 4 Porsche 911s here this weekend, it may be coming the time soon where we might not see a Porsche at Le Mans for a year or two.
Porsche for this category, GT2, have been around forever. A couple of years ago, that's all we had. I think we had only like 2 Ferraris or something, and every other car was a Porsche. But you know, times change. We've got Spikers in there, we've got Panos in there, and we've of course got the Ferrari 430 GT, which is the car that's really giving the Porsche a hard time. And this car, in various guises, has been around for an awful long time. And it's getting to the point is, you know, how much more development is there? How much quicker can we make it go? Or will it simply, you know, that's as far as it goes, and therefore we've got to try and think about something different. And you know, it can't go on winning forever, and at some point it's going to be sort of pensioned off and left alone, and something else